Hi, my name is Rachel Henderson, and I'm creating this video for EDSU 534, Preparing 21st Century Learners with Professor Debbie Cook on March 1st, 2020. This flipped classroom video will be used with my lesson plan as part of my science portion of our group multidisciplinary unit plan with the essential question, where does our community get water? Here in the Coachella Valley, we have an underground aquifer fed by a canal from the Colorado River, which the students will learn about from doing their own research. So welcome students to our aquifer lab. If you're watching this video, you should have already watched the Great Aqua Adventure video on YouTube on Google Classroom. And you should have your notes from the Google Slides vocabulary words that is also on Google Classroom. We're going to be talking about the water cycle, a confined aquifer, an unconfined aquifer, an artesian well, and porous rock. So first off, what is an aquifer? A body of permeable rock that contains groundwater. Okay, so for our lab, I'd like to introduce you to the materials that we'll be using. We have a bottle that has been modified to create a funnel for our filter. We have rainwater, to which we have added just about 1/4 teaspoon of vinegar to give it a slightly acidic reading. We also have our limestone, our gravel, and our sand, as well as some organic material. I have found a couple of leaves that we're going to use for the organic material as well. Okay, so we have our Aquifer Lab graphic organizer. Okay, this is what we're going to use to follow the steps as well as record our data. Okay, so every group will have one of those, and how will you design it is the question, okay? You get to be a little bit creative with the levels and amounts of the materials that you're going to be using. We're going to be working in groups of 4, okay? We're going to have a recorder. We're going to have a person in charge of water, a person in charge of sand, and a person in charge of testing the pH levels. Everyone in the group is responsible for discussing all the steps together, problem solving, and communicating, okay? So, our step number 1, we're going to set up the bottle, okay? So we're going to record what we do as we go. First, we're going to add the limestone, okay? So we'll add a couple of the limestone rocks. That will be the bottom of our filter, okay? Next, we're going to add our gravel, a little bit larger pieces of rock. So as much as you think, maybe you get to make a choice on that one, okay? Then we're going to do the sand up on top of the gravel. Well, that hopefully will be stopped there. I'm going to stop right about there with the sand, okay? Maybe a little more, okay. Make sure that looks pretty good. We're gonna measure each layer, okay? So we have each layer measured out and recorded, okay, for our group. Okay, so that is step number 1. Step number 2, we have our rainwater. This has a little bit of sand in it as well, so that should be a little bit murky, as surface water tends to be, mixed with maybe some pollution, who knows what. Okay, so we're going to test the pH level with our pH strip. We're going to record the pH level on our data sheet as well. Okay, then we're going to move on to step number 3, folks. Okay, and that's the fun part. The person in charge of the water gets to pour it through and hope that everything comes out, okay? So we're going to pour all 500 milliliters of our water through our filter. And it'll start to drip out the bottom. You can kind of see it dripping a little bit. And we're going to give that 15 minutes, okay? We're gonna let that, as you can see it, continue dripping, come back in 15 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes. So as you can see, all the water has gone through the filter. So we're moving on to step number 4, okay folks? We're gonna observe the water. So what can we observe with this water? Has anything changed about the appearance of the water? We're gonna write down anything, how much water did come out. Was there some of the water that was left behind? What happened to that water still in the filter? Of course, we're gonna check the pH level again, and we'll note if there's any difference. Did the filter filter any of that out? Record that as well. And then of course we have a short answer question at the very bottom of our graphic organizer. What did we learn? What would we have done differently? How is this going to relate to the rest of our multidisciplinary project? What do we predict is going to be coming up? And also, did you see any other groups do things differently that you might want to try if we were to do it again? Okay, so that concludes our lab that we're going to do on Monday. Thinking ahead for Tuesday, the next portion of our lesson will be individual research of the essential question and a virtual tour of the water department. We will be talking about on the following Wednesday our group presentation about the sustainability of an aquifer. Our class, along with the English and history classes, will be designing and presenting digital brochures that we're going to present to the local elementary school students. But we will talk about that on Wednesday, okay? So get excited for this lab, and we'll see you on Monday. Think of any questions that you have for me, and write them down, and we'll talk about it on Monday. Thanks.